River City Podcast Federation.
Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. I'm your host, Sara Jones. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you kind of know the routine by now. So we do a Minisode series where I get to talk to you about your ghost stories. For this Minisode, I spoke to Eunice from Everett, Washington, about a couple of experiences that she's had, including a ghost in her childhood home named Jane, and a successful paranormal investigation she conducted one night in a 500-year-old castle. Here's the call. I hope you love it.
Hello?
Hi, Eunice?
Yes, hi.
Hi, this is Sara Jones from Laughing in the Dark. How are you?
I am fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. Before we get started, where are you calling from?
I am calling from Everett, Washington.
Everett, Washington. Okay. And do you want to tell listeners your name and something about yourself, just to introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. My name's Eunice Olson, and I live in Everett, Washington. And I have been I'm married, have a husband named Corey. And I'm really passionate about like paranormal things and all of that. And there's not really much to tell.
Okay, well, cool. Looks like we have a lot in common.
Right?
So walk me through your ghost story. Where does it take place?
It actually started when I was 7 years old. My parents moved to Amanda Park, Washington. My dad worked for the National Park Service over there.
Oh, cool.
And there was a Rambler that we rented, and we lived there for 13 years. And so I have literally 13 years of personal experiences.
Wow.
Yeah, so I initially, about when I was 7, is when I really saw my first apparition, got my first experience with a ghostly presence, if you will. So I, jumped in feet first, I guess. What happened was we had moved in, and I think it was like a couple of days after we moved in, I was sleeping in my bed, and you ever get that feeling like someone's watching you?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
That was my experience. I was laying in bed, and I felt like someone was watching me, and I opened my eyes, and there was a lady standing over my bed, smiling at me. Didn't say anything, wasn't anyone I recognized. She just stared and smiled at me.
Did you feel threatened by her presence when you saw her, or how did you feel?
No, I wasn't threatened at all, actually. Granted, I was frozen in my bed, couldn't move.
Yeah.
And what seemed like lasted forever, maybe a minute or so, before I got the courage to bounce out of bed.
Yeah.
And ran down the hallway, looked behind me. She was gone. And went into the kitchen to tell my mom, "Hey, Mom, there's someone in my room." And of course, she, like all parents, you had a nightmare, you're dreaming, go back to bed, all of that. And I think it was like a week or two later, we were over at a neighbor's house, Pat Gockley, who lived a couple miles down the road. My mom was visiting with her and said, "Hey, EJ, come." That's what I go by, EJ.
You go by what?
Come into
Sorry.
the kitchen. EJ.
AJ, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. My given name is Eunice Jean, so I go by EJ.
Okay.
And she called me into the kitchen. She's like, tell Pat what you saw. And I described her. I said, it was a lady standing over my bed, and she had kind of dirty blonde hair, and she was smiling at me. And Pat goes, "Oh, that's Jane." And I'm like, "Wait, Jane?" Okay. And Pat knew Jane before she passed away.
Whoa.
And so we had a name to a face. And
wow.
Yeah, it was definitely eye-opening. And from there, she was very mischievous. She liked to really mess with people, which I loved about her. In the morning, my mom would wake up and the cupboard doors in the kitchen would be open and the chairs would be table. Of course, Mom blamed Dad. Dad's like, I went to work, everything looked fine.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, whatever. We would get calls from neighbors telling us our house was haunted. Even when we moved in, thinking about it, we moved in, none of the doors were on the hinges inside the house. The previous people didn't have like a shower curtain up or anything, and they strung string along the bottom of the doorways and in the windows. And at the time, we're thinking, well, they're just overly paranoid.
Yeah.
Okay. But as time went on, they were scared out of their minds. They didn't know what was going on, so I don't know if they thought they could trip her or what. I have no idea what they were thinking.
Huh, yeah.
But as the years went on, she kind of became a part of the family. Like, something would go missing and we'd be like, Jane's got it, or, whatever. Mm-hmm. Lights would turn on and off. There was a master bedroom that we didn't use, just moved in. And we would go on for the weekend, go visit my brother, go do something for the weekend and be gone overnight. And we would come home, and in the master bedroom, the lights would be on, or the heat would be on, or in the bathroom, the water would be on. And of course, my dad's like, you need to stay out of that room. Like, I wasn't in the room. Like, I was with you. Like,
yeah.
Where would I be? And because it was government housing, Dad's like, someone's got a key, they're messing with us. Well, it was her trying to get our attention. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because at the time, growing up, I was scared to death myself because I didn't understand it the way I do now. Mm-hmm. I've educated myself over the years to understand, and you have intellectual hauntings. And in my lifetime, I've experienced 2 intellectual hauntings, which most people can't say that unless they're truly looking for it.
So now, what distinguishes a haunting? What makes it an intellectual haunting?
So the intellectual haunting is when they're interacting with you.
Okay.
If you think about it, residual is something like a movie being played over again. Like, you may see a shadow or whatever. Intellectual is where they're amongst you and they're present. Like with Jane, what was interesting about Jane, I only saw her the one time. Mm-hmm. She never reappeared to me again because she probably thought she scared me half to death. Mm-hmm. But like my parents, like my mom always would hear like a conversation in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And she swore up and down we had more than one ghost. Mm-hmm. I never experienced that. My parents would wake up in the middle of the night. We would have the hallway light on, and they'd look in the doorway and see her shadow. Mom would be sleeping in bed and feel like someone was holding her hand. To this day, I can't sleep with my hands outside the covers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't need anyone holding my hand.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of interesting because in the 13 years we lived in the house, the lights, of course, doors would open and close, and not like slam or anything. It would be subtle. My mom had a story, unfortunately, she's passed away now, but her and a friend were sitting in the living room and it was cold, and they had been trying to start the fire in the wood stove for, an hour or so, and finally gave up. As a joke, Mom said, "Jane, I can't start the fire, start the fire." According to her, it went poof and just started.
Whoa.
Of course, they're like, "Okay, we're leaving, bye." Granted, when they came home, the house was nice and warm, but, stuff like that. My friends growing up, they knew, Amanda Park's a very small community, so they knew the stories. So, when friends would stay over, they'd be freaked out, and they had their own experiences as well.
Wow.
When I was, growing up, I was isolated as a kid because, I had this, ghost in my house. But as the time went on, I even met her daughter.
Jane's daughter?
Yeah, Jane's daughter. We were, I must have been like 10 or 12. And we were down at a local restaurant, JJ's. And the owner, Gene, he was there, and a lady was at the bar, and they got to talking. And she's like, "Yeah, I grew up in this area." And he's like, "Oh, really? Whereabouts?" And she's like, "Oh, up North Shore." And she gave the description. And he's like, "That sounds like where the Albers live." That's my maiden name. And Mom, goes, "Well, what's going on?" And yeah, it was her, and she followed us up to the house and, walked around the house, and we told her, "Hey, we think that your mom is still here." And she thought that was kind of cool. I think she was a little freaked out about it too. Not everyone is accepting or open, because not everyone believes in the paranormal. And what I find is until you experience something unexplained is when you start to open your mind.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, yeah, I was been really blessed having that experience. And as time went on, in the, 13 years I lived there, the older I got, the less present she was. And once I graduated from high school, I think that's what she was waiting for, because according to Pat, she passed away with 2 young girls still in high school. She never got to see them graduate, which is heartbreaking. And after I graduated, there wasn't that feeling of being watched, and there wasn't that feeling of not being alone. And I'm very sensitive to that, to the point now, my husband, Corey, he's like, "If we stay someplace or we go someplace that that's haunted, don't tell me."
Yeah, I don't want to know.
But he likes watching the same, paranormal shows I like to watch, and he likes to hear the stories, but he doesn't want to be relevant in the stories.
Yeah, he's not, he doesn't want to participate.
Yeah, like, when I stayed at Thornewood Castle in Lakewood, Washington, this was before I was married to my husband. Me and my husband graduated together, but it was before him and I were married. And I told him the story of Thornewood. And if you ever get a chance, go up to Lakewood. It's a bed and breakfast. Stay there. It's a gorgeous castle. It's 500 years old. And
where is this now?
It's in Lakewood, Washington. We stayed there at the bed and breakfast. My friend Shelley kind of gave me as a birthday gift, "Hey, let's go stay at this castle." And I had watched the series, so I was familiar with the story of the castle.
Oh, okay.
But she's like, "Oh, and by the way, it's haunted." And she's my friend that anytime that there's a haunting, she's like, "Oh, I'll go with you." She's like my little buddy that goes on these adventures. And we went there prepared. We had a video camera, we had a recorder for EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, and then I brought this little flashlight that to turn it on, you have to turn like the top or the bottom of it. Mine, it was the top. And you turn it just to the point where it's not quite on. And you set it down, and then you invite whomever is there to communicate with you. So those were the three things that we had. Now, granted, I'm a novice at best. I would love to be like, make it a career to go around to haunted places. But that's what we had. I mean, that would be a dream job for me, you know? And if
me too. I'm trying to make it happen. What's that?
Yeah, right? I said, if I could have a video camera go with me, I'll make a TV show, no problem.
Oh, yeah, I know, right?
Right? It's like everyone else gets the luck. But initially, when we got there, of course, we had plans to go to dinner, so we set up the video camera in our room, and we stayed in the gold room.
Okay.
And so we were gone for like 2 hours probably, or close to it, and got back and kind of did a quick review, but didn't really study it until after we had left. Didn't find anything on the recording. I mean, the only real background noise we heard was just that of the castle, nothing major. That night before we started our investigation, we watched the movie Drag Me to Hell. I wouldn't recommend watching a scary movie before doing an investigation. Gets into your head.
Okay.
Right? Just note to self. Yeah.
Right.
Note to self. Don't do that. Mm-hmm. So I decided to, because I wanted to get into my comfy clothes and everything, because you want to be comfortable.
Yeah, yeah.
I took a shower. And on the third floor, you share a bathroom with the other, I think there's 5 rooms up there. And what was weird, and again, I could have been getting into my head a little bit, but as I was taking a shower, I had that feeling of being watched. And I know that feeling of being watched. I had 13 years of being so-called watched. So I'm familiar on, the hairs on the back here, arms stand up, and you just get this feeling. And I kept pulling back the curtain, thinking I was seeing, someone was going to be there. Granted, no one was there. And I made the comment to Shelley, and of course, Shelley, being Shelley, goes, "Oh, maybe the person's just perverted." And I'm like, great, that puts my mind at ease.
Right.
What's nice about Thornewood, at least back in 2011, the owners are great to say, you know what, you have free reign of the castle.
Whoa.
She said, if the door is shut, you can't go in because, of course, someone's in there. But if doors are open, you can go in there. You can, sit down, act like this is your home. And I loved that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because a lot of places, at least bed and breakfasts, you can't just walk around. I mean, and this place, if you bring it up, it's like 52 rooms and 53 bathrooms. Like, this place is like huge.
Massive.
Like,
yeah.
Huge. Oh, yeah, totally. So we just kind of walked around, and we kind of started just on the third floor, and our plan was just to kind of work our way down. Now, on the third floor, there's an area where the hallway is just mirrors, and then further to I guess it would be the west wing of the castle, they have this narrow hallway, and I believe this is where, the staff that served the people that lived up there, because they're very small rooms. But in this hallway, there's angels. They decided to decorate the hallway with statues and pictures of angels.
Okay.
And of course, during an investigation, you want the lights off. And of course, Shelley, my friend, is making me go first. And it's not just a straight hallway, Sarah. It has corners and turns. And I'm afraid to go around these corners and turns because I don't know what I'm going to see or maybe what I may run into. So we get into this room, and I believe they called it the meditation room.
Okay.
And to me, it's just a small little room, and they have like a little day sort of bed seating area in there and a chair, and they had like this almost like a really tall bar table with like the stools, you know. Mm-hmm. And there's this mirror that takes up some of the wall. And I think it's the very last room in that hallway, if I remember correctly. So Shelley's like, okay, well, let's go ahead and we'll, set up the video recorder, and we'll do the flashlight test, and I'll have my recorder as well. I'm like, okay, well, we'll just throw everything at it and see what steps make sense.
Yeah.
So this is the first time now I had ever done an investigation at all, besides my own personal experience. Mm-hmm. So this, I didn't know really what to expect. So I set up the flashlight to where it's, barely on, and I'm asking Shelley, who's more of a novice at this than I am, well, what do I say? What do I do? And she's like, well, if you set up the flashlight, just whoever's around to communicate and explain to them how the flashlight works. Okay, yeah. Simple enough. So I had the flashlight on this little table next to this day bed that I was sitting at. And I kind of go, okay, so all I got to say is, whoever's out there, there's a flashlight on the, table. Just go ahead and turn it on for yes and off for no. Mm-hmm. And she goes, yeah. The flashlight turned on.
Oh, got it.
And
the ghost is like, I'm with you.
Right. And first of all, I probably went up a couple of octaves in my voice because I was not expecting something to respond that quickly or at all.
Yeah.
And I got literally on the edge of my seat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, okay then. So I quickly picked up the flashlight and I moved it at the table in front of us, in front of the mirror and everything. And we started recording. And the video is about 10 minutes long-ish. Mm-hmm. And between Shelley and I, we just asked questions. From the synopsis of our questions, what we found out was the person that we were speaking to was male. He came over from England with the castle.
Oh, the castle was moved from England?
Yes. So the history of Thornewood, I'll give a brief description, is that the original owner that owned it was part of the Port of Tacoma. So very wealthy for the time. And he was getting married, and he wanted to build a home for his new bride. Now, how his connection with England and stuff happened, I'm not sure, but he found this castle in England and he bought it. And he brought it over brick by brick via the waterways and built it. Now, in Lakewood, I believe it's American Lake. It's right there on the lake. Mm-hmm. And so he was smart enough to use the water to, of course, transport. Back then, you couldn't fly it or anything. And, he built it brick by brick as a wedding gift to his wife, which I think is amazing.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to have a castle as a wedding gift?
Oh,
hello.
I know it.
Right?
Especially a haunted castle. I mean, come on.
Right? Exactly. And we found out that he came over with the castle. He's male. He enjoys the variety of people that get to stay at the castle because you have people that go there to have their wedding ceremonies. You have people that come there to rent it for, business events. Thornewood does things. They have a big, huge ballroom that they use for different events for like the holidays and Halloween and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And granted, after the 10-minute conversation that we had, it takes a lot of energy for a spirit to communicate. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that it's not easy for us I guess it is easy for us to, turn on a light. But for them, they have to gather all this energy. And that's why you hear, of devices losing battery, because they're pulling that energy to try to communicate. So towards the end of I'm going to call it a session, right? Communication with, I think I had asked, please let us know if, we're bothering you. Because, a spirit is just a person in a different realm, however you want to think of it. So you have to be respectful of people. Like, you're invading space, you're taking their time, So towards the end, I was like, if you still want us to talk to you, please go ahead and, turn on the flashlight to let us know. And of course, the flashlight didn't come on. So we're like, okay, well, we'll give you a break. We'll roam around the rest of the castle. And that's what we ended up doing. We, left that room and we went into the other rooms, and each room has a diary, if you will, of people that have stayed there and their experiences. So that was fun to go into that room, kind of read through the diary, if you will, and then try to do investigation. So we did the flashlight and the EVP and the video in each of the rooms. We only got a response in the meditation room. We did not get anything on camera. We did not get anything through EVP. So I thought that was really kind of interesting, because you see so many TV shows now that, they have the EVP and they've got the EMF and they got all these different things to help communicate. And sometimes just going back to just the basics works the best. And I know that there's some controversial things about the flashlight test, because some people say, well, it's not reliable because, the battery is still connected and that spark is what turns the light on. The video that I have, you can clearly tell I'm asking a question, it turns on and off, but it's not a quick on and off. It's like, it looks like someone's trying to turn it. Like, it goes kind of, and then really bright, and then it looks like it's like shaking almost. And what I like about my video, I'm very proud of it.
It sounds awesome.
Is I try to think, if I was a skeptic looking at this, how would I debunk this? Because that's the best way to do any sort of investigation. You go in thinking there's no ghost. You have to prove to me that you're real. And so having it in front of a mirror. Now, granted, the room is dark. Looking back, maybe I should have had like a light on, closer to one of us to show, nothing around. But at the time, it was so impromptu,
Oh, yeah, totally.
You can't, you want to be authentic. At the same point, you want to, have that intimacy in that space between whomever you're talking to and yourself. So the mirror is really helpful because you'll kind of see me in the mirror holding up my video camera. So it's not a ghost, it's me. But it's just a really nice video, and I'm hoping in the future to do more investigation.
Wow. Thank you so much for your stories, Eunice. That paranormal investigation sounds pretty awesome. If you want, You can actually check out the video that Eunice made while communicating with the spirit of the Thornewood Castle on our website. We put up a link for you to take a look at if you're interested. Go to litdarkpodcast.com. That's LITDARKpodcast.com. Head to our menu and click on What's New if you want to watch her video. Do you have a great ghost story? We want to hear from you. Email us at litdarkpodcast@gmail.com. That's LITDARKpodcast@gmail.com. We might want to put you on the show. Thank you so much for listening.
River City Podcast Federation.